It's just 7:01, and so I will call this meeting of council, or Committee of the Whole meeting to order. Just a reminder that we're being recorded, so be mindful of that. You can also watch this on live stream. It's also on our YouTube channel, and it will be on Tell-Il for the next 7 days. So I'll begin by acknowledging that we are gathered here together in Unama'ki, the land of the fog, a part of Mi'kma'ki, the unceded traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people since time immemorial. We honor and thank the Mi'kmaq for sharing their land and home with us. So you have your agenda in front of you that was circulated last week. I will make note that Councillor Sampson and Councillor Marchand are not with us tonight. They sent regrets. They're doing important family work, including tonight is the awards ceremony at Richmond Education Centre and Academy. So shout out to all those folks. So we have an agenda that was circulated last week. Are there any errors or omissions? Any additions? Hearing none. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Approve the agenda as circulated. Can I have a seconder? Anybody? Okay, over to Deputy Warden. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carried. Review of the minutes. You have minutes from our May 13th meeting. For those following along at home, it's on pages 4 to 11 of your package. Are there any errors or omissions from that set of minutes? If there are none, I would entertain a motion to adopt. Moved by Deputy Warden Sampson, seconded by Councillor Mumbercat. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. So we have two presentations to council this evening. So the first presentation is from Rachel LeBlanc, Seniors Safety and Social Inclusion Coordinator with the Dr. Kingston Memorial Community Health Centre. For those folks who are watching at home, in your package you can see her slideshow presentation, and that's from pages 12 to 23 in your package. So I will turn it over to you, Rachel. We're talking about the Senior Safety and Social Inclusion Program.
And I'd just like to say too that I updated the map. Oh. We talked about it yesterday at our AGM. Yeah. Okay. All right. So my name is Rachel. Oh wait, gotta hit this. Sorry. My name is Rachel LeBlanc, and I work at the Dr. Kingston Memorial Community Health Centre in Lordways as a Senior Safety and Social Inclusion Coordinator. Working there, I have the opportunity to work with the primary healthcare team, recognizing the person in their entirety, and this means identifying gaps, sharing insights into programming, as well as social prescribing.
You don't have to hold back. It's good. You're good.
Oh.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, wonderful. Through this approach, people can be connected to non-judgmental, free or low-cost programs that can improve mental and physical well-being through purposeful engagement. In many cases, this translates to better overall health outcomes. Inclusion, dignity, and allowing people the space to be heard and are truly deeply rooted in my beliefs as I worked as an advocate for persons with disabilities for many years. Those years have taught me much patience, compassion, and the importance of being heard and validated. So every program is different per county. Personally, I'm a big food enthusiast, and food insecurity is a huge concern right now. So in our program that highlights food insecurity, social inclusive opportunities, information sharing, as well as general navigation, and these are some of the navigating that I would do. And I feel that reaching people that need it most starts with genuinely listening and building that trust with people. So this is a photo of, Statistics Canada released the survey in 2022 showing the poverty rates were very alarming. And so from May 2024 to date, we've sent out 1,860 plus homemade meals and food parcels through our various food programs with the wonderful, wonderful grant writers that we have. So this is a photo of the group from the adult drop-in. It was an 8-week cooking lessons, and they kind of had input on all the recipes, so it was a very inclusive project, and it was probably one of my favorites. And the mouse is stuck, sorry.
So basically in 1 year, 1,860.
Yeah.
Wow.
So here's kind of a breakdown of some of the programs that we had. The Hearts to Home, which was 20 participants for 24 weeks. The cooking lessons at the drop-in, 8 weeks, and it was 30 meals we sent out per week. So that was pretty good. The Helping Hands pilot was 10 participants for 10 weeks, and the Helping Hands was 30 participants for 36 weeks, and that's ongoing until August 2025. I think we're on week 30 or 31. And we had a bonus. We had a sign up at the drop-in for folks to come and have a dine-in experience at River Roots. So they got to experience different plants and green smoothies and all kinds of fun stuff. And an extension of that was actually that we got to invite the Hearts of Almadam, Louisdale Community Homes, and the Almadam Small Options Society right before they went to Disney. So we wish them well, and they had fun anyway. So this is, okay, where we are. This is some photos of the food programs that we had. This is Norma Jean. She's the coordinator at River Roots, so the Kingston and River Roots kind of partner up in food, and everybody's happy. The next slide. The portion size, these were feedbacks on the forms that we got. The portion sizes are really great. We got 2 meals out of 1. It helps to stretch out during the week. That is kind of sad. This summer has been so hot and with no air conditioning, but it was a treat not to have to cook in the heat. And I liked this one. They're waiting at the door in anticipation of the meal. I'm barely in the door and they're taking it out of my hand. And if they didn't like it, trust me, I would hear about it. So that was from one of the volunteers. And we also asked these questions in one of our surveys. So what are some of the barriers to accessing nutritious food? Choosing to pay bills over buying food, the cost to buy, not sure what to buy, financial issues, no land on which to grow vegetables or raise animals, not wanting to ask for help, and cost and the accessibility of transportation. Yeah. So our Cafe Reminisce, it's the first in Richmond County, so we're pretty lucky to have that. So when the Alzheimer's Society released their landmark study, it was alarming, and we do have an aging population in the area, and maybe that's perhaps why the numbers are so high, but it's still something to note. And caregivers, 45% of caregivers expressed they experience distress and burnout. And Memory Cafe are for anyone with memory challenges or or other cognitive impairments and their caregivers. It gives a sense of belonging, purpose, and community. And in an effort to kind of educate people more on dementia, we found that was we had a really slow start to the memory cafes. So we started doing dementia presentations across. We've done 3, and we have another one planned this month. So they've been going over well, and that's with the Alzheimer's Society. So, and they're pretty well attended too, so the information's getting out there one way or the other. So here's some pictures from our memory cafes. The concept of a memory cafe is to create a safe, welcoming, and social environment where people can relax, share experiences, and enjoy activities without the stigma or pressure. It's a casual group that gathers over drinks and a focus on connection, support, and meaningful interaction. We always have snacks available. Usually they're on the healthier side. There is music, and they're always free. We were fortunate to have Krista Luddington play for one of our April cafes, so everyone really enjoyed that. We did have some funding support through Memory Cafe Nova Scotia, but they didn't get their funding for this coming year, and they're looking into different avenues, but we're gonna continue with it as long as we can. Because I think it's important, and the people who attend really seem to get something out of it, as well as the caregivers who are especially engaged in the activities. So here's some feedback from our cafe participants. This lady, I always say she's going to be the spokesperson for Memory Cafe. I like everything about today and every day we come here. I always look forward to coming. It is fun to be here with everyone. And one person said it's therapeutic and encourages community building. And I hope I captured this one. This one, somebody spoke this to me, so I hope I captured what she meant. This is what I got from it. After my diagnosis, I began to lose the me I knew. I am still trying to find where I belong. Memory Cafe makes me feel good about myself each time I attend. It makes me feel good to be part of this. So that was really, really great. The presentations and information sessions that we hold, we've had a couple of them. I only started like late November 2023, so I'm still hitting some new things, but these are some of the presentations that we've done. We've done falls prevention, identity theft and fraud prevention, emergency preparedness with the Red Cross, lots of dementia topics, various topics on mental health, which some of those included seasonal affective disorder, aging and mental health, healthy boundaries, trauma, and we actually have an elder abuse awareness coming up at the end of the month. And we plan to do a parenting session in the fall, and that may sound strange coming from me, but there's quite a bit of grandparents who are actually taking on the role of caregiver, main caregiver, so I think it hits pretty near everyone. Estate planning, we've done that and plan to do that in the near future. And victim services, we had them come as well, and that was just a wealth of information. Plan to have them back as well. So here's the map in question. The original one I had sent in, the stars are the places that I've added since starting, and the yellow are the places that we have continued an ongoing contact with. So it was just kind of to show the growth. So in 2024, we had 33 new referrals to the outreach list and 235 referrals to services made in total. So I feel like that's pretty good. Some of the places were Rocky Bay, Middle Cape, Chapel Island, Lower River, which is where I'm from, so, or not from, but I live there, and West Bay and Roberta. The reality is that many seniors have become accustomed to living with material deprivation. There are times when people require supports above what is available, and there are times that the services are not there to begin with. But every person is reached and connected to services that make their quality of life a little bit easier. And we've successfully hosted 7 Cafe Reminisce. I'm mindful of the time. And so we plan to continue with that. We host a walk. Like we have a regular walking group every Thursday at 11, leaving the Kingston usually, but we're open to different locations. We put in a team for the Alzheimer's Society. There was 800 walkers altogether, 10 walks across Nova Scotia, so we were in one of them. Lastly, a goal we have is to expand the reach of our food programs. We have been approved funding through the Community Food Centres Canada that will allow us to bring people and food together in more fun and social and meaningful ways. So stay tuned for that. We hope to incorporate recipe sharing, storytelling, music, history, and food into meaningful cooking sessions. We will see more as it unfolds over the next 2 years. And just food insecurity will be an ongoing challenge for the unseeable future, so we are proud to have this part of our program. Especially me, because I'm a food lover. And as outreach grows and new challenges present themselves, we will find innovative ways around them. And I want to thank you for your time. And I've gone over a minute.
Okay, that's okay. Great, thank you.
And thank you for your support as well.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to any counselors who have any questions. Sure.
I didn't have time. If I had
Pretend I'm asking about it.
Okay, so the spinach cake,
Press your button.
it was, oh. Hold it?
Yep.
Okay. The spinach cake, it was in a previous slide.
Yeah, the green one.
Oh, there was tons and tons and tons of spinach in it, and you couldn't taste any. It was sneaky cake. It was for St. Patty's Day.
Sweetie little cake.
It was delicious. Yeah, yeah. And we also shared all the recipes with the folks that attended, so.
I guess maybe a question / comment, but I mean, obviously the food piece, I'm with you on that. Also a food lover. Thank you so much for that presentation. It was really wonderful. It's really great to kind of hear some reflection on what you're experiencing on the day-to-day. The municipality invests in this program every year, but we're not in the day-to-day like you are. So I really appreciate that. I did want to pick up on a couple things. I mean, obviously on the food side of things, these sessions, I'm assuming one of the goals is not just to address the food security that comes along with providing a meal, but also in terms of, providing guidance on how to make food last longer, right? Like there's one lady who said, or person who said they can split it over 2 days, and the cooking classes that you're doing, is that sort of part of what you're trying to achieve there? Is that you're familiarizing seniors and, and your clients with different ways of making the food go further kind of thing?
Yeah, well, we actually... We did try to have, it was something like scrappy cooking. Right. I forget the title of it. We did try to have that, but we didn't have any uptake on it. But it's probably something that we would do again. Maybe it was just bad timing or something. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, that's super important. And I was very mindful when we did the cookbooks of the cost of things, because that is, you can't just basically make what you want. You have to do what's affordable and use the things that you have and be resourceful that way. So I'm very conscious of that.
Yeah, those are great resources. And just a couple of follow-ups then. yeah, I think those would be fantastic resources. So then you mentioned, obviously, I'm sure it caught everyone's attention, but the parenting classes, or workshops, whatever it'll be. And I've heard the same thing from some of the community members that I speak with, that they are grandparents in situations now where they are primary caregivers for children in school, children in elementary school sometimes. And it's not a place where any of us expect to be at that stage of our life, and parenting at one age is very different than parenting in your 20s. And but I'm wondering, are you running into situations because I have in some of my communications where some folks are living in seniors complexes or public housing, and there are restrictions on who can live there with you, and so their ability to care for a grandchild is having an impact on their ability to stay affordably housed, and vice versa. It's almost like there's a bit of a dichotomy there. Are you seeing any of that on the ground? Or?
I haven't yet.
Okay.
But I know you had mentioned that the other day, so yeah.
I'm hoping it's fairly isolated in its case, but it scared the heck out of me, frankly.
Situation
Yeah.
to be in at all.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Rachel.
Great, thank you very much, and such important work. And I think to Councillor Mumbercat's point, we sit in budget deliberations and we make decisions about what programs we want to fund, and it really is helpful for us to get ears on not just the asks, but here's how that money here's where those investments have gone for the people in Richmond County. So really, really important work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We will take a second to switch over from one presentation to another. But while we're doing the technical parts of this, I will welcome Hugh McKay, who is from the Rural Communities Foundation. Is McKay or Mackay? McKay?
I'll take McKay today.
McKay, okay. Rural Communities Foundation of Nova Scotia, and going to speak to us once we get set up here about the Rural Communities Foundation of Nova Scotia, and specifically the Dave Gunning Zero Hunger Fund. Thank you.
See you, Rachel.
Oh, there you go. You're all set up. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and councillors, staff. Thank you for the invitation to speak to you this evening. As introduced, I'm with the Rural Communities Foundation of Nova Scotia, and I will talk briefly on that. Down here. Okay, I'll tell you briefly who we are, what we do. As the warden mentioned, I'm going to speak specifically to the Dave Gunning Zero Hunger Fund. There's an ask for consideration at the end, and I'd be delighted to take any questions you might have and provide answers. So the Rural Communities Foundation of Nova Scotia is one of approximately 200 community foundations across the country. There are 3 here in Nova Scotia. Probably the more well-known is the Community Foundation of Nova Scotia, and they're probably 10 times larger than us. And then there's also one with the Mi'kmaq as well. We've been around for over 20 years now, and what we do is we raise funds and disperse funds through the form of grants to support projects that we've undertaken. Typically, these are projects that have come to us by a member of the community or an organization, more likely in the community, looking for some help. We have some criteria for vetting the proposals that we get or the requests that we get, and then if it's a go by our board, then we set about doing some fundraising and providing grants. We are a federally registered charity, so we are responsible, of course, to the community members, to our grantees, to the donors, and we don't operate in a silo. We're a member of the organizations noted there, the Community Foundations of Canada, the Nova Scotia Not-for-Profit Coalition, and several others in that field. So these are, as I mentioned, we undertake projects that are brought to us by a member or an organization in a community, a local community. We are focused on rural Nova Scotia, I should say. So we're not doing projects in the urbanized part of HRM, for example, although we do in rural HRM. As a charitable organization, we are able to provide tax receipts to our donors. And just as an aside, one of the other things that we do is we do manage trust funds on behalf of individuals and organizations. A couple of our current projects, and you can see a full list of them on our website. The Ukrainian Nova Scotia Resettlement Fund is something we do on behalf of the Ukrainian Foundation of Canada. It's really flow-through money from them, and we support Ukrainian families who are trying to either reestablish their lives here in Nova Scotia after fleeing the devastating war in their country, or perhaps they're only here temporarily and hoping to go back to their homeland at some point. A lot of these are down in the former CFB Cornwallis base down in southern Nova Scotia, which is housing a good number of Ukrainian refugees. The Joan Feynman Climate Change Fund, you may have heard of this program in the past. This is a matching grant program in support of climate change. Joan Feynman was a noted American astrophysicist, actually, but very involved in the as a climate change activist as well. And she has strong roots back to Nova Scotia, and her family here has established this in her as a memorial. And they provide 50% matching grants to programs that where the originator of the program provides the other 50. Rural Nova Scotia Pride Fund is something that just opened recently. This is helping rural Nova Scotia Pride groups that don't have the resources perhaps that you'd find in HRM or some of the other urbanized areas at getting established and putting on events locally and so forth. We also do community impact conferences, and some of you may be aware of that. Last year, for example, we did one up in Member 2. It was specific to climate change. We had a number of municipalities presenting on some of their climate change mitigation, protection types of activities. And we're anticipating that we'll do, I think, up to 3 more of these conferences, again, related to climate change this fall and perhaps into the winter. But specifically, as mentioned, I'd like to talk about the Dave Gunning Zero Hunger Fund. Some of you may be familiar with Dave Gunning. He's a noted Nova Scotian musician and songwriter who's got wide recognition, certainly throughout the Maritimes and across Canada and into the United States. He's a staple at a lot of the festivals around Nova Scotia, Stanfest and others, for example. This program was originally going to be called the Bruce Guthrow Zero Hunger Fund. But Bruce, as he was ailing from cancer, asked his good friend Dave if Dave would lend his name to the program, and fortunately he did that before he passed. Dave has picked up the torch, I guess, to use a Montreal Canadiens expression. He picked up the torch from Bruce, and he's been not just a name for the program, he's been actively involved in the program. He mentions the program at all his concerts. He's even done some special benefit concerts where the funds come directly to the program. So what's the program about? It's about supporting what are commonly called free stores in Nova Scotia schools. Sometimes they're called pantries, sometimes they're called backpack programs, whatever. These are programs that support students who the school staff notice are coming to school without proper nutrition. And really, after just hearing Rachel speak about food insecurity and the great issue that is across Nova Scotia, and particularly rural Nova Scotia, I would say, some of her comments there about Nova Scotia having the worst poverty rate in Canada, it's something that a lot of folks are having to work towards. And, as Rachel has said, her group's doing what it can. We're trying to do what we can, one small measure through the Zero Hunger Fund. I was taken by one of her remarks, the notes that she made, where she was saying people are afraid to ask. And that's so true. A lot of people have a tough time going to the food bank or reaching out. And this is just one small, perhaps, effort for addressing that, because what happens at the Zero Hunger program is that we establish these free stores or pantries, the school establishes it, we're just flowing through the money for them. And they'll have this set up in a kind of not a prominent position in the school. It'll be like in a guidance counselor's office or perhaps in the library. And when the staff, and they really do, they see which kids are coming to school without proper nutrition. They will take them to that spot in the school and fill up a nondescript grocery bag or backpack so that the kids can take that home and share it with their families. So it differs from the in-school programs like the free breakfast, free lunch programs that have been introduced, fortunately. This is a complement to those programs. It's a complement to the food banks. It's a complement to what Rachel has just described and so many other things. The need is great. And so all these small measures are going towards helping to address that. So what have we done? Well, last year was the first year we actually had the program running as far as being able to give grants. We set a goal of $100,000, and I'm pleased to say we raised that last year, $100,000. And in December, just before Christmas, we distributed $100,000 in grants to 26 schools across the province. And so where are we now? Well, the need is great, and we're pleased with the success we had last year. So this year we're trying to, we've got a stretch goal, admittedly, to go to 200,000, but we're going to try to do that so that we can help more schools across the province with operating their free stores. We're about 20% of the way there right now. Our contributions typically come from private donors who've heard of the program, individuals who may be at a Dave Gunning. We always know when Dave's done a concert because there's a flurry of donations come in, literally sometimes during the program, but over the following days. We also have corporate support, which we're trying to grow, but we do have one foundation in Nova Scotia, a corporate foundation, that is being very generous to us. And we've been applying for community grants from municipalities throughout the province. Last year, we weren't really tuned into doing that, and we got $15,000 from 3 municipalities, total of $15,000 from Annapolis County, Antigonish County, and Municipality of the District of Lunenburg, all generously contributed to the program. So we've been more aggressive on that this year, and we've probably, I think we're in the neighborhood of $20,000 or so we've already got from municipal grants this year. We're also embarking on a program to try to bring the school community in closer to supporting the program as well by reaching out to the members of the community through the organization once known as school boards, but now Regional Centers for Education. They've been a great help. We actually have to flow the money through them because schools can't accept the money directly. So we give it to the RCE. They distribute it to the schools that have been identified. So what's our ask? Well, primarily today what I've come to here is to create awareness, and create awareness not just with council and staff, but hopefully through your corporate media, social media, websites, whatever, through your individual councillors may wish to just promote the program, speak of it. So we would very much appreciate any consideration you could give along that line. This year, next year, whenever, at some point, if you consider us for a municipal grant, we'd be quite grateful. I believe we made an application this year. We've not heard about that, but these things come out throughout the year. So our website's right here at the bottom, RCF of novascotia.com. And I'd like to thank you for your attention and your consideration, and I'd be delighted to address any questions.
Thank you very much. I have a question around how do you determine the schools or the RCs that you partner up with in terms of creating or contributing to already established stores?
Sure, thanks for the question. we have criteria. Firstly, it starts with schools applying. And last year, as I said, it was our first year. We didn't have a wide exposure. We weren't anticipating getting a lot of applications in. Well, we had 80 applications, which was not overwhelming, but it did require us to sharpen our pencils. We have criteria that we go through. We have a dedicated group that evaluates the proposals that come, the applications that come to us. We have criteria within there that would identify how many students could be supported in this way, what are the benefits, not just to the school, but to the community, and a number of other criteria that we use to rate the applications. And it was disappointing that we couldn't help all 80 schools last year, but we're very pleased that we could help the ones that we did. Typically, those are $3,500 grants that went to schools, which is a help for stocking a free store. It's not going to sustain it forever, and that's why we hope that the community groups and others, the school community, will get involved more as well.
Yeah, great, thank you. Anyone else? Yeah.
Just could we share on our social media to help raise some awareness?
Sure. Yeah, I think that that's something that we can do. Our social media page is fairly active in the area. Yeah. And really interesting that there are several organizations that have tried things like this, and schools, I think you're right, have a very keen understanding of who in their school community is struggling, and the breakfast and the lunch programs being universal has been great, but the targeted funding available to people significantly in need is really helpful. And there was a really active backpack program here for a while, and then it sort of went asunder, and it is noticeable the difference. I was the principal of one of the local schools, so the difference is quite noticeable on the back end of that, seeing that kind of fall apart a little bit. So thank you very much. It's been really helpful to get that information, and we appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate, as I said, your attention, your consideration. Okay, have a great evening.
Okay, so moving on to new business, there are several items that we have on this agenda item. So the first is related to a temporary borrowing resolution regarding the Loch Lomond Volunteer Fire Department. So there is a memo on that. It starts on page 37, and it talks about the request from Loch Lomond Fire Department to approve an agreement. Oh, that's you. Sorry. Okay, so there you go, yeah. So there is the resolution, which is included in the package on page 40 of the package. So and this has been vetted by our finance department. So I would entertain a motion that Committee of the Whole recommend to Council to approve that the municipality enter into a loan agreement with our lending institution in the amount of $73,564 for the purpose of purchasing a 2021 L Ford Super Duty F350 SRW XLT. Anybody interested in making that motion?
I'd be happy to, Warden.
Moved by Deputy Warden Sampson and seconded by Councillor Mumbercat. So the motion, as I read out there, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. And so I do need to read, that whole thing? Okay, so just enjoy yourself for a second. Okay, so Council of the Municipality of the County of Richmond, Fire Department Guarantee Resolution. So the amount is $73,564. The fire department is the Loch Lomond Volunteer Fire Department. And the purpose of this resolution is the purchase of a 2021 Ford Super Duper thing. So whereas the Loch Lomond Volunteer Fire Department is a registered fire department with the municipality of the County of Richmond, whereas the Loch Lomond Volunteer Fire Department is incorporated by Societies Act, whereas the Loch Lomond Volunteer Fire Department has determined to borrow the aggregate principal amount of $73,564 for the purpose of the purchase of a Ford 2021 Ford Super Heavy Duty F-350 SRW XLT by special resolution on the 10th day of June 2025 as per Section 10D of the Societies Act. Whereas the Loch Lomond Volunteer Fire Department has requested the municipality of the County of Richmond to guarantee the said borrowing. Whereas Section 294, subsection 6 of the Municipal Government Act provides that the municipality may grant or lend money to or guarantee a loan for a registered fire department for operating or capital purposes. And whereas Section 83, subsection 3 of the Municipal Government Act provides that no guarantee of a borrowing by a municipality shall have effect unless the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing has approved the proposed borrowing or debenture and the proposed guarantee. Be it therefore resolved that Council of the Municipality of the County of Richmond does hereby approve the borrowing by the Loch Lomond Volunteer Fire Department, $73,564 for the purpose set out above. That, subject to the approval of the Minister of Municipal Affairs and the guarantee, the municipality unconditionally guarantee repayment of the principal and interest of the borrowing so made. That upon the issue of the debenture, the warden and clerk of the municipality do sign the guarantee attached to each of the debentures and affix thereto the corporate seal of the municipality. Is that it? Oh, good, there we go. There you go. Okay, so that motion carried. Resolution is read for the record. Moving on. Item 6B, Community Climate Capacity Cohort Grant Application 2526 memo. For folks following along at home, you can find that information is from page 41 to 61, primarily the first couple of pages. So that's in your briefing package, and the briefing note provides us with information about being included to the coastal cohort for 2025 under the Climate Capacity Program through the Clean Foundation of Nova Scotia. So information about the financial implications and the related action items that speak to climate change, adaptation, and preparedness are also included in there. So, Councillor?
Okay, so I will make a motion to support the application. I know that the memo says approve, but I think we're...
Yeah, so we're asking for a motion, the Committee of the Whole recommend to Council to approve
Right.
staff applying to be part of the 2025 coastal
Approve
cohort.
staff applying? Okay, we'll use that language. Yeah, that's fine. I'll make the motion to approve that staff apply to the program.
Okay, we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that? Any concerns?
As long as we have the motion of that support, Madam Chair, that just needs to be part of our application, and that'll do.
Great. Okay, great. Well, we certainly know that there are several items, action items in
That
our.
go with it.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you use the motion from COW, or do you need to wait till after?
We're gonna submit it with the application now that we have this and it's
Yes.
ratified at a later date.
Okay.
So,
Good. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, now, I did check on this one. We have 5 grant applications, so we're on 6C, and there's a lot of information. It runs from pages 62 to 151 of your package. Since we're not in a position to make decisions on these until after the budget is approved, it is within our purview to actually make one motion to defer all 5 of these grant applications until after the budget is approved. So, I am looking for a motion to defer the grant applications from River Bourgeois Mariner Society, Kitchen Rackets Organization / Celtic Colors Workshop, Jan Bruns Island Community Center, Kitchen Rackets Organization / Summer Jam Sessions, and the St. Peter's Grand River Loch Lomond Pastoral Charge until after 25-26 budget is approved.
So moved.
So moved by Deputy Warden Sampson. Councillor Mumbercat. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion is carried. So moving on to item 7, which is the Warden's Report. You'll see that on page 141. 152. Now is probably a good time to make note of the fact that we will not have Committee of the Whole in July and August. So you'll see June and July and August's warden's report at our September Committee of the Whole. I also, just maybe spoiler alert to that effect, I will say that I had a very good meeting on June 2nd with staff at the Strait Regional Hospital and the staff from Health and Wellness around CT scanner possibilities. So that meeting was in June, but excellent first steps. Go ahead.
Okay, so thank you. I was hoping that we might get a bit of an update at some point on the World Hydrogen Summit, because I was really excited that we did, that you were able to attend. And I know in the past, I've done little reports and things. I'd be happy to share those if that's helpful.
Yeah, and so there are actually, the warden went, yes, but the warden went in the place of our energy manager. And so as the representative from the municipality / being paid for from that budget, Tyler Mathis, who was Cape Breton Partnership, and I'll be happy to circulate that as well. So I can give you a little bit of an update. So the event took place over 2.5 days. There was a Atlantic reception, and it was well attended. So the Premier of Newfoundland attended, having been Premier for all of 9 days, flew over and was there as one of his very first official duties. And then the Minister of Energy was there. So the Premier was busy for the short time he was there, but the MLA for Richmond, who is the Minister of Energy, was busy for considerable amounts of time. When you arrived at the venue, the World Hydrogen venue, the Canadian pavilion was by far and away the most pronounced. It was one of the best strategically placed pavilions, and I would say one of the largest, actually. And so it was made up of several provinces around the perimeter. And Everwind was also there. Part of the contingent from the Atlantic provinces, part of Nova Scotia's contingent was staff person from Invest Nova Scotia. And this year, which I think may have been different than other years, there was what was called a matchmaker program. And they may have done it in the past, but by all accounts, this was a really effective program where people who were interested in learning about opportunities and people who had opportunities to offer were created. Sort of a matchmaker program was established. So the person, Suzanne from Invest Nova Scotia, said that was really, really impactful. At part of the time I was her secretary, managing getting people to and from her. And when I asked whether or not any of the conversations, so she was busy every 30 minutes from 9:30 until 5 o'clock. And when I asked if there were any of those conversations that were related to the Strait of Canso, in fact, she said most of them were. And so what I will say was interesting, she reported that she went to a breakfast function where they talked about where hydrogen really is versus where the media implies it is, and that there is a disconnect there. That whenever you have new energy events, new energy possibilities, there is a lot of talk about the greatness of it. It's going to solve all the world's problems. And then when it rights that ship a little bit and people start to think a little bit more reasonably about, what the real opportunities are, sometimes that comes across as, oh, it's falling apart, when in fact that's not the case. Hydrogen is very much on the move at a World Hydrogen Convention. What I will say is there were also some sessions you could attend. The one that I felt was most interesting to me personally was the one around education, but I will say that I would say that this neck of the woods is miles and miles ahead of where Europe is around education. So they talked, there was one panel about, they talked about needing 38,000 people in the clean energy sector, from university to skilled trades people. And there was a woman there who she was an engineering student, and she had come to learn about hydrogen and was really passionate and couldn't find anybody to do a master's program with. Mm-hmm. So that disconnect between the kind of science related people. So when I talked about how, when I get back from this event, I'm taking 1/3 of all grade 7s to a hydrogen facility to teach them about hydrogen, there was a real concern, so the NSCC's technician program was certainly really, really impactful. And so the biggest concern that people identify in this sector tends to be labor. So steps that are taken to kind of, address and acknowledge and anticipate those labor concerns early on, really impactful. So lots of really good conversations, not one happened without reference to the American president and situation in the United States. Not one conversation that didn't include, God, we've got to rethink how we consider our energy reliance on places like the United States. Not one. So our clean fuels use study, our local use study, was very popular conversation piece. And while we were there, it was announced that the buses in Halifax, for example, were going to move away, a couple of them moving away from batteries and into hydrogen. So really, really impactful. Tyler was excellent. Tyler Mathis, he just works. So he and Trevor were made for this kind of work. I was busy kind of manning the fort a little bit. Anyway, that's my brief summary.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any other, okay, so that's the World Hydrogen update, and thank you to our energy manager for being unavailable, so I got to fly. I literally flew over, hopped on a train, walked across the street, went to the hotel, did nothing but go back and forth to this event, got back on that train, and then came home. So it was a lot of flying, but it was great. Okay, so those are the, that's the warden's report. Member of council items. Councillor Amanda Mumberket has a question regarding, or a topic to discuss, adding a new housing association to the list of not-profits in bylaw 56. So.
Thank you, Warden. In discussing, I guess, the affordable housing side of things in particular, so kind of not so much market housing, and with the establishment of the new at-home housing association, that is going to be a regional association looking after, setting up more affordable housing in the region. We had been doing some research, including through the housing forum that was held a couple weeks back, having conversations with the folks in Guysborough County in particular, where they have a new housing association, and they were expressing some concern and frustration that they were struggling to obtain a tax exemption for a property that I believe they purchased to provide affordable housing, and they don't have enough money coming in from it to necessarily cover all of the property taxes, I think the situation in Guysborough County is that only charitable organizations are eligible for tax exemption. So whereas here in Richmond County, bylaw 56 kind of establishes certain categories of nonprofits and organizations that can obtain it, and then specifically lists which ones can obtain it. Mm-hmm. In some other municipalities, what they do is they have categories, and if you're a charitable organization, you meet certain other criteria, then you can be declared tax exempt. So instead of having a list of the specific organizations, they have kind of more criteria-based approach. I'm not sure which approach is the best, to be quite honest. I like the very specificness of our bylaw because it's available to the public, it's clear who is in, and all of that. But at the end of the day, it did make me think of the new housing association here, and wanted to suggest some preemptive action for us to consider, which would be the reopening of bylaw 56. It is currently closed for a couple of reasons. To consider adding at-home housing association to that list of nonprofits. It takes years to become a charity, so I'm not suggesting we would wait till they become a charitable organization, but to take some preemptive action to assist that group. It would be also, I think, an opportunity to review that existing list. I think there's a few that are maybe a little out of date, and update it should an organization no longer exist or have changed purposes or whatever the case. It would allow us to maybe do a jurisdictional scan for best practices, and then maybe most importantly, to potentially create an incentive for organizations who are on the list to appeal their tax assessments. We know that some of the ones that are declared as tax exempt by us have extraordinary tax, assessment valuations, and those assessment valuations create a liability on our books, to the tune of over $400,000 a year, that we are contributing to communities without people even realizing it, and in part because those assessments are so high. So I guess at this stage, I was looking for some advice because I'd like to refer this to policy and bylaw for review, but I don't think we can do that until we officially open the bylaw, or would we do that at, like if we came up, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me to do a bunch of revision on it at policy and bylaw level if it could come back here and never be opened. Do you know what I mean?
Is there an opportunity to, given that it's June and, you know, we're closed for business for July and August, for that part of our work, is it possible that we would refer the matter to staff to give us some advice on direction we could take with all of those things, the jurisdictional stand, advantage and disadvantage, as you mentioned, names on the list that would potentially, you know, have outgrown the purpose of their original intent, and to prepare that for us to make a decision in September about whether it does move forward. So is that something that gets some information from staff to us that then kind of drives our decisions after that?
Yes, I think that would be great, Warden. But again, would not want to be asking staff to go through all that if there was no appetite from council to ever reopen it. Do you know what I mean? So I just wanted to get a sense of it at this table before sending it anywhere, really.
I'm not sure how those on the other side of the room feel about it. No, I mean, in all honesty, I think we know it could be a can of worms. We talked about that. But I'm more than willing to have the conversation because it comes up every year at budget that there may have to be some tough decisions made as to whether or not there's a way to adjust this that will hopefully encourage groups to maybe appeal the assessments and so on. Because I think a lot of times when their assessment increases, it's like you said, they have no idea that has a detrimental effect on the county by them not appealing it. So I'm more than happy to have that conversation, and I think maybe referring it to staff might be the right way to start. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and just for folks who are, you know, unaware maybe, just so bylaw 56 is a bylaw that allows the municipality to say that community groups do such good work that we want to, you know, support that work as best we can. And so they get property assessments, just like each of us as homeowners would get, but they are exempt from paying the tax that goes with that. So there would be community halls and that kind of thing. And so they get a property assessment just like we do. When you don't pay it, there is some concern that there's not much incentive to appeal. And so we are concerned that we're seeing higher assessments than we would otherwise see if they had to kind of say, gosh, that's too much for a community group to pay. You know, it is considered a liability for us, and we do that portion of that assessment that we have to pay out for education still goes out the door. And so it does impact our assessment. So it is a cost to us. So there are some benefits to just keeping our mouth shut and never asking these questions, and we don't open up any can of worms, but I do think it comes up, and I think it is worth investigating. So, you know, I think you have three members of council sitting here tonight, which is a majority of council. So even if the other two were adamantly opposed, I think we would get, you know, an appetite to bring the discussion to the table. I don't think that's unreasonable.
So thank you, Warden and Deputy Warden. In that case, we'll make a motion to refer bylaw 56 to staff for investigation into the current status of some of the organizations listed, look at best practices, and potentially some incentives to help appeal or review assessments.
Can I have a seconder?
I'll second that. I'm just waiting for the red light.
No? Thank you. Great. Hearing no additional discussion on that matter, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. So we have two items from Deputy Warden Sampson. The first is around the involuntary destruction advocacy, which is now some terminology that we've learned. So I'll turn it over to you, Deputy Warden.
So, yeah, this is further back to the letter we had sent to the province And I mean, I was really happy with the response. It sounded like they were possibly looking into it. And from the NSFM Spring Conference, after speaking to some people there and some people from PVSC at one of those tables, the term involuntary destruction was one I was told to use in this, and that we ask the NSFM to possibly take this on as an advocacy issue. Because I think our letter really was to the province. It wasn't, we copied some people on it, but, you know, I was told I may be better off to address it directly to the NSFM, more or less with the same messaging as before, ask if it could be an advocacy issue, and I believe it was possibly the Municipal Autonomy Committee may be best suited for it. So I don't know if you have anything to add on that, or and maybe that's not the place.
It would need to come to the board first.
Yeah.
So I just want to give a little context. So people who have been following council may very well remember that earlier this year, Deputy Warden Sampson raised the issue of people who lost their homes, for example, in a fire, which now sort of is being considered an involuntary destruction. When you pull a building permit to rebuild, you lose your cap. And so that means that the property tax you face with a new house that may be exactly the same as the old house, it could be even smaller, that's right. But even if it fall on the exact same footprint, your property tax bill would now no longer be capped. And so the impact of that on families who have already suffered through no fault of their own is really, to use the Premier's words, harsh. And so we did ask that the government take that into account because they did make some changes for the wildfires in Tantallon and Shelburne. So we were asking that may be extended to events that were not specific to those fires. And so we did write a letter, and we wrote it and we copied the NSFM, but this is really a letter that we would ask the NSFM's board to take this on as an advocacy issue.
Sorry. So NSFM would need a motion of council?
Yeah.
Yeah, in order to do that, so, yeah.
And that, delay. Yeah, so that's what I was thinking. I'd like to make a motion that council send a similar letter to the one we sent to the province, however, asking for it to be an advocacy issue with the NSFM, and, you know, including the terminology involuntary destruction, because as we had said before, the fires were one example, but we also saw within the county a couple of houses that were destroyed through Fiona, and we've seen it elsewhere as well, and just with there could be multiple instances where this happens to somebody.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor? I'll second that. Seconded by Councillor Memberket. Any other discussion on that item? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion carries. Next item from Deputy Warden Sampson is an issue around credit freeze. And so this item includes a write-up, just sort of briefly summarizing it, but the link is to a CBC article. So I'll turn it over to Deputy Warden if you want to give us some background on that.
Thank you, Warden. So there's something that's new to me as well, but it came to my attention through a radio segment within the last few weeks, and then I started looking into it, where this article spoke about legislation that was in place in Quebec. What happens there is it's possible for you to contact the credit agencies and have your credit frozen. So the reason I'm bringing this up now, based on the Nova Scotia Power issue, what everybody's aware of, there's a lot of people really concerned about this, understandably so. I received one of those letters myself. By doing this, you would be able to temporarily freeze your credit. So if you had no thoughts of large purchases, let's say in the next 6 months to a year, you could contact them, have this done, and then if you are the victim of identity theft and somebody tries to, let's say, buy a car in your name, as soon as that would get flagged that your credit was frozen, and then it may make it more difficult for them to do it. So it's able to be removed. It's only available right now in Quebec. This article was only from 2024, and at the time it said Nova Scotia was considering it. I'm not aware of it going any further since then. However, my ask would be, I'd like to make a motion that we write a letter to the province asking that they seriously consider this or look into it going forward, because I think it could be helpful for a lot of people, especially given the current situation with the NSP cyber attack.
Okay, so I will second the motion. And I think one of the important pieces, so from the Quebec Credit Assessment Act, is it's an opt-in scenario, you know? So you're not, it doesn't just apply immediately to everybody. You can, it exists, and then you opt in should something like this happen. And I think that would be an important piece. So I wouldn't suggest a motion amendment, but definitely if we could mention that in the letter, that it would be an opt-in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because there are people that are going to say, no, I don't want to do this or whatever, and that's totally their choice. It just may give an option to some people out there, and hopefully it's helpful to them.
Yes, certainly, for sure, it is a topic of conversation at social events and around the water cooler, to say the least, about the Nova Scotia Power letters that have been released to the public, that have been provided to large numbers of people in Nova Scotia because of lost data and that data breach. And it reminded me very much of, like, you can put a hold on your credit card. So if you just can't put your hands on your credit card right now, you don't have to declare it stolen and cut up in the numbers. You can put a kind of a pause while I find it, and then you can take that pause right back off again, right? So that has been, you know, somebody who's had to use that a couple of times, that function has been really really helpful. And I've already lost my data in the previous data breach, provincial employees. So certainly happy to support that. So any other discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carried. So now we have the CAO's operation report for those folks who are following along at home. That's from pages 154 to 158 of your package. Open it up to any questions from council, or if the CAO wants to highlight anything, throw that out there. Busy.
Yeah. All parts of the building are hopping.
Yep.
And out in the field.
Can I ask
Sure.
a question on that? Thank you. Thank you, Warden. So a CAO, just one kind of question around the cell tower upgrades with public safety. You mentioned specifically the Sterling lease. I know there were other locations being planned. Do we have any knowledge?
Nothing beyond the Sterling one at this point. Sterling one's the only one confirmed for June for this year. There are others slated, and as those dates become known, they want to roll it out and see what the benefits are of each tower and do reassessments to confirm that the other ones are needed in the right areas. Yeah, they have the maps where they have them identified where they think they need to go. They want the bigger towers in there and test it before they, commit to the other sites. I think the other sites are committed. It's just where exactly should it go. So.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, so it is my pleasure tonight to speak about May's Volunteer as we move to community acknowledgements. So May's Volunteer of the Month is Stacey McCrae. Since her transfer to Cape Breton in 2009, Stacey has been a true community champion, consistently promoting the region and everything it has to offer. When she's not serving as a dedicated RCMP officer, Stacey can be found leading spring and summer cleanup efforts, often seen collecting litter along the roadsides of Richmond County. So far this season, she has gathered an impressive 83 bags of garbage, well on her way of reaching her goal of 100 bags. In addition to her law enforcement duties, Stacey is actively involved in numerous community initiatives, including local bike safety rodeos and the beloved Festival of the Trees. Please join us in recognizing Stacey for her hard work, dedication, and commitment to her community. We thank you for all you do in Richmond County. And so I will take this opportunity to throw this over to Councillor Mumbercat, if you have anything else to say about Stacey McCrae.
Sure do. I can tell you from, volunteering in the community as much as I do, Stacey's not a stranger to any of those venues and events. And from a community policing perspective, I really think that her efforts really embody what we want to see is the best of our police force, and aside from saying again, echoing your words of thanks, I do know that Stacey is has a planned departure from Richmond County. So the only thing else I would have to say is please don't go. Please stay or please come back. Those are the only other things I would have to say. But no, thank you very much, Stacey, for your work.
Great. Before I throw it over to councillors regarding other community acknowledgements, I want to take this opportunity to thank all those involved in fighting the wildfire in Framboise just over a week ago. You don't need to be an expert in anything to know that wildfires are always serious, but areas like Framboise are particularly vulnerable. They are a little off the beaten path, have struggles with cell service, and have seen down trees in the woods due to hurricanes that are often perfect conditions for fires to escalate. Without the amazing work done by the men and women who stepped up, many of whom are volunteers, this situation could have had a drastically different ending. So on behalf of the municipality, I would like to offer special thanks to the following: the fire departments from Framboise, Fortshoe, Grand River, Lardoise, and Budledeck; the Cape Breton Regional Municipalities Fire and Emergency Services, particularly Stations 1 and 2, Marion Bridge Volunteer Fire Department, staff from Department of Natural Resources from St. Peter's, which includes the Incident Commander Trevor Wilkie, but also natural resources staff from offices in Bedeck, Coxheath, and Waikagama; to the Nova Scotia Department of Public Works, to the Richmond RCMP, and to the Public Safety Field Communications based out of Shubenacadie. Thank you as well to our neighbouring municipalities for reaching out to offer any support as needed, as well as Celtic Air, for example, who offered air support right at the very beginning. So on behalf of residents, not just in Framboise, but all around Richmond County, there really is nothing like supportive communities and knowing that in time of crisis that there are people you can count on. So not to put you on the spot, Deputy Warden, but I don't know if you want to follow up on that.
No, that's fantastic, and that's what I'm going to have a couple of requests out of this, I guess. One would be that exact statement, basically. I'm not sure if we could post that on the website. I think it'd be great to publicize that, and maybe the Facebook page as well. The other thing, I reached out to the mayor of CBRM to thank them for their help, and just a comment to get it out there on public record. On the Saturday, I had multiple people talk to me about how much they appreciated CBRM, especially stepping up on Friday, and just the commentary about the people who did come on Friday. I wasn't there that day, never met them, but like how helpful they were, and it was multiple people told me that throughout the day, like they were so appreciative of them not only sending them, but how much help they were and how great they were to deal with. So the other request would be if we could send an official letter to CBRM thanking them for their assistance.
And I will say that I know Mayor Clark. I've known him for several years, and he was very quick to reach out within not less than hours of the fire kind of being reported. So, and thank you to Mayor and CAOs, wardens and CAOs from across the island who reached out again just to offer support as needed. But CBRM was really quick, and because we were so close to the county line, just tremendous cooperation there. And thank you to our own deputy warden, who was one of the volunteer firefighters. With that, I am happy to provide those letters of thanks. Anyone else have anything to add on community acknowledgements? Go ahead, Councillor.
It's that time of year. Thank you, Warden. I want to say a huge congratulations to the graduates of the Nova Scotia Community College here in our backyard at the Straight Area campus. They had their convocation on June 5th, I believe it was, and it was just, again, another wonderful group of graduates crossing the stage, and it was beautiful to see. And of course, that being said, we're coming into the end of June, so and I know we don't generally allow time for this at our regular council meetings. So to the grade 12s at Richmond Academy, Allen Lafford High School, and Ecole Beauport, want to just recognize their accomplishments. That's 13 years done, and however many more to go, we'll see for many of them. So very exciting time. I would also like to do a shout out. We already talked about our new Regional Housing Association, but At Home Housing Association is now officially formed with the Registry of Joint Stock Companies after only, I think, less than 2 months of work on that file by the consultant Tom Gunn. And so that's a huge milestone to have all of that work done. And I want to particularly thank the new board members, especially their new chair, Drew McCory. Our very own Megan Landry is the vice chair, Janet Willis is the treasurer, and Teresa LaRusi, who's no stranger to Almadam as well. She's taken on the secretary duties. So the executive of the new society, as well as all the rest of the board members, should be congratulated, I think, for stepping up at a time when, you know, housing is top of mind, affordable housing is top of mind for many. And last but not least, congratulations to our energy manager, Martin Thompson, on his recent nuptials. And that is why he couldn't be here with us when you were headed to World Hydrogen. So congrats, Martin. I couldn't resist putting you on the spot, especially when I saw you in the gallery.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Mumbercat. Certainly, yes, June is a busy time, and it really is busier in schools. So thank you to all the staff who are going to make everything in public schools happen in June. I tell this story often, but there was in our staff room at one point a sign that said the best part of being a teacher was June, July, and August. And at one point in June, Judy Martell walked in and ripped the June part off of the sign because there is nothing about June that's easy. So to all the staff who are going to do all the things that make June happen, and thank you to everybody, you know, parents and students and staff alike who are going to make events like Words Nights and all of that take place. So yeah, busy month. And so with that, unless anyone has anything else, we'll move on to correspondence. So we have a couple of items that require some action on our part. First is from Amber Madden, sponsorship chair. Regarding herbivores, so the Tom McNeil Cancer Patient Fund sponsorship request. So this is in pages 160 and 161 of our package. Sorry, yeah, 160 to 163. So anybody have anything to? Yeah, go ahead, Deputy Ward.
So yeah, this was the official ask from them, but we have considered this through our budget discussions. So I guess it'll, once the budget becomes official.
Right. So,
Yeah.
do we need a motion to defer this, or I don't think we do.
I don't think we do because it's already there.
Right. Yeah.
Do a motion to receive it and you're done. Just receive it.
Receive this request.
Yep.
Okay.
100%.
So can I have a motion to receive the request?
I'll move that we receive the request.
Okay. Can I have a seconder? Oh, seconded by Deputy, or by Councillor Marshall. Mumbercat, sorry. Gosh. Yeah, and I know it's such a busy group, I can hardly keep the names straight. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, that motion carries. We have a request from Claire Rankin, who is the citizen appointee and the board chair so he's the citizen appointee from the Municipality of the County of Richmond on the Eastern Counties Regional Library, and he is also their chair, regarding advocacy for sustainable public library funding. So there is an email from Mr. Rankin, and then it includes some notes from Allison Graham, who is a town councillor from Truro and I think originally from Jiddick. So wondering if anybody has any thoughts on that?
I'll go first. Okay, thank you, Warden. So I do remember when Allison got up and spoke about this at the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities. You know, she's making some great points. She's talking about, you know, the vast majority of people who work in public libraries being women. They're highly skilled, well educated, but chronically underpaid. How libraries serve as warming centers. We're seeing best practices emerging all over the place around them, combining with VICs. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to have libraries in our communities, and I do agree that they are underfunded. So I think the request from Claire is to write a letter, but specifically I would say I would make a motion that to recommend to council. Is it in there already?
It is, yeah.
66? Oh, okay, yeah, we got it. So I would make a motion that the issue of an inadequate and sustainable funding for public libraries in Nova Scotia be brought forth to the Nova Scotia Federation Municipalities Board for consideration as an advocacy priority, based on the resolution they've got there. I'm not going to read it all.
So the request is that we write to the NSFM so that the NSFM can kind of act on collectively. Okay. Seconded by?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Deputy Warden. Any other discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. There is a letter from Heather Brennan, who is the before and after school program manager for the Strait Regional Centre for Education. So this letter is not asking for a letter of any sort. So I'll just give you some feedback. So or some context. So pre-primary was a program that was implemented very quickly, and it had some really great. The reasoning for it was great, and putting 4-year-olds in public schools certainly has advantages, but it had unanticipated consequences, and some of those consequences were that 4-year-olds were removed from early childhood and daycare centers and child care centers, which changed the dynamic of the kind of funding that they could approve and the number of people that kids they had. But one of the biggest concerns is that daycares and childcare centers typically operate from 7:30 in the morning until 5 o'clock. So when you put your kids in pre-primary in the first year, you weren't allowed to bring them through the doors until after school started at 8:20 or 8:30, 8:40, and you had to pick them up before the buses came, which meant that parents who had 4-year-olds could only have their kids in these facilities, in these programs, from 8:30 to 2:30, let's say. And then they eventually allowed kids on the buses and outfitted them with seat belts because they're so little that seat belts weren't built for those. Had to ban them from the playground equipment because playground equipment is from 5 to 12, so there was lots of hiccups. But it still is the case that even if they get to school, it is a struggle for families who can put their kids on the bus maybe at 8 o'clock, get off at 3. Very few jobs allow you to work from only 8 to 3. So there is somebody whose job it is to actually work on before and after school programming, and it is my understanding that Richmond County is the only part of the SRCE that does not have before and after school programming. There had been some in St. Peter's, but that has fallen apart. And so what they have tried to do is access a service provider that would be willing to work out of the school so that essentially you could drop your kids off at 7:30. They would be in this before school programming, walk right over, they take you by the hand, take you to your pre-primary class, and then after school, they walk you to this after school program, but it's not just for pre-primary, so it would be anybody from pre-primary up to grade 6. So it provides a viable way for families to stay in the workforce. The problem is they do not have a service provider who has been able to take that on, and they have struggled on their own to find staff. So what that letter is really just to request that we make note of that to councillors, so that if you have any connections to service providers who might be willing to work in the St. Peter's School or in Felix Marchand School, and there are some 5s and 6s over at Recca, but the bus would allow them to bus over. So, and if we could perhaps consider some ways that we could share that on our social media. So they are really looking to provide a service, and given that childcare is now so much more reasonably priced, it would really be a great thing. I will tell you, as the principal, we had families who would call me about this when I was at Felix Marchand all the time. It's a terrible thing to be just so close to being able to enter the workforce, but not being able to. So it's as if you don't have childcare. If you can't have childcare that it mimics the hours you have to work, it's just an impossible situation. And the St. Peter's situation, I think, caught everybody off guard. So you used to be able to do that, and now you no longer can. So it is a real hardship for families. Anybody else? That's kind of my soapbox story there. If you have any ideas, by all means, you can let me know, or you can send them off to Ms. Brennan directly. So moving on to information-only correspondence. There are several of them there. We have one from us to Trevor Boudreau, Minister of Energy and MLA for Richmond, accessing the Canadian Housing Infrastructure Fund. Just a note that our MLA was in contact with several folks around where that funding lies, and have already had some really positive conversations with those folks. Did write the letter to Jaime Batiste, banged my fingers on the keyboard when I wrote that one, about concerns about cell service in Richmond County. The library's operational accessibility plan is included in a package from page 170, 172. The request for Nova Scotia Power to prioritize vegetation clearing in high-risk deer areas, and similarly Public Works around roadside clearing for deer population. Letter to the Honourable Tory Rushton regarding request for adjustments. That letter included some correspondence we got after our last meeting from folks at the River Roots, who the deer have taken to barging into and under the River Roots facility. So they can't expand at River Roots. So at a time when we've had two presentations about food security, we can't expand growing on property that they own at River Roots because of the deer. And you have a letter there from Dave Dingwall regarding his presentation to us in May. Any questions or concerns about any of those? Okay, review of checks issued for the month of May are in your package from pages 178 to 183, and review of action items from 184 to 190. Don't know if there's any questions for CAO on any of those. Okay, items added to the agenda, there were none, and so we now have a question period of 15 minutes, which is not restricted, in this instance, not restricted to any items on the agenda. So it's anything you want to ask us. So if you are interested and you're at home, you can call us at 902-226-9885. So 226-9885. If there are any questions from the gallery, happy to take those while we wait for any phone-in questions. There is always a delay, that's why we sit here for a few seconds, but no phone calls at this point. So I think that's it, that's all. So seeing that there's no further items on the agenda, I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you.